Hi, I'm Kevin Privalle, and this is Terajoules, a one-player deck and engine building game with tile placement features and push-your-luck mechanics. Lots of games touch on city building or power generation, but Terajoules is different in that it focuses on the environmental impact of these projects. As you harness energy to generate power, non-renewable resources incur a toll on the climate. Can you balance the need to provide power without harming your environment beyond repair? Well, in Terajoules, you have 12 years to build and provide power to your burgeoning city. Each year, measured as a full play through your deck of cards, you must decide which energy sources to process in order to generate power. Each yellow cube represents 1 terajoule of energy, the amount a neighborhood requires per year to keep the lights on. Neighborhoods provide much needed goods, labor, money, and technology, but they require annual power or else they become dilapidated and no longer generate any worth. With those earned goods, you can build more neighborhoods, improve your energy processing plants, buy more cards for your deck, or fund projects to help mitigate your impact on the climate. You have to be careful about which energy sources you choose to process. Those with harmful impacts on the environment increase your chance of causing natural disasters, which have costly penalties. And polluting energy sources increase the hole in the ozone layer, which will ultimately make your city untenable if not held in check. Here's a quick look at gameplay. Draw 4 cards. You may play up to 3 and must discard the rest. Process energy with your power plants. These are facilities you can upgrade throughout the game to improve your power generation ratios. Store up to 4 terajoules in the generator, or instead, send the cubes through the grid to power your neighborhoods. Every time you send power through the grid, though, you lose terajoules due to inefficiencies, so you'll need to be strategic about when this occurs. Likewise, as you build more neighborhoods, you increase your inefficiency as your grid strains to support them. Anytime you process coal or oil, you generate pollution. Generate enough pollution and you increase the hole in the ozone layer, which in turn raises the temperature of your city, an effect that itself begins to melt the ice caps, raising the water table. Process atomic energy and you increase your risk of nuclear explosions. Anytime these trackers reach a space with a disaster hex, add them to the bowl. When you run out of cards, the year ends and you draw a hex from the bowl. Draw a neutral hex, you're in the clear, but draw a colored one and you've got a natural disaster to deal with. Increased heat risks wildfires, increased water risks flooding, increased nuclear use risks explosions, and each neighborhood you dedicate to oil refineries increases your risk of earthquakes due to fracking. Then, collect goods based on the neighborhoods you powered for the year and spend those goods on market items to enhance your engine and your deck. As mentioned before, you can build new neighborhoods, improve your power plant ratios, add cards to your deck, purchase insurance to protect from future disasters, or fund climate projects to help clean up the environment. As you build neighborhoods, you have to adhere to zoned properties, locations which require like districts, as well as other challenges like additional labor or money to build on a property. Fail to provide power for a neighborhood and it becomes dilapidated, providing no goods at the end of the year. If you like the solo variant of terraforming Mars, you'll enjoy Terajoules. While it has entirely different mechanics and gameplay, the player experience is very similar. You have a set amount of time to build an engine, there are numerous organic strategies to complete your objectives, and the game arc has a massive ramp up towards the final years. Each step in the game is a micro decision with a large-scale implication. There's no right answer, but each decision cuts off avenues for you later in play. The meat of this comes during the year-end steps when you determine how to spend your earned goods. Will you expand your city? Well, then you'll need to provide more terajoules the following year. Will you add more cards to your deck? Well, then you need to make sure you can access that energy resource, and so on and so on. Terajoules is a game that teaches players about the consequences of city building. Short-term boons introduce long-term implications. Renewable energy resources are more difficult to get up and running, but they can provide clean alternatives if you can commit to them. Speaking of energy resources, let's discuss those now. There are 6 different sources you can process throughout the game. Coal is readily available and the most prevalent at the start, but requires that you power a coal mine annually to gather ore. Similarly, oil is easy to use, but is pollution heavy and requires a powered refinery. Atomic energy is very powerful and generates terajoules directly from card plays, but is also the riskiest in that it advances the nuclear use track. On the other end, you have non-renewable resources. Wind is erratic, you roll a die each play to determine wind power, but is accessed freely and without climate impacts. Solar energy is difficult to process, but can be stored easily with a solar battery. And hydropower is difficult to rely on, but it's endlessly renewable. It's possible to win the game using any combination of these resources, leading to a varied puzzle every time you sit down at the table. And with objective cards for the advanced player, there are hundreds of different terajoule paths to explore. This is a unique game in that it provides thematically appropriate consequences and mechanics for each energy resource. I hope you enjoy.